Episode 43 of Shots Fired.
43.
43.
God damn.
And it's me, your host, Sig Glockincolt, a.k.a. TJ Kirgin, HMFIC at TacticalSht. And my co-host,
DynaDeathMilbergs.
DynaDeathMilbergs, a.k.a. Alex Milberg.
Yes, sir.
General Manager at TacticalSht. So, of course, TacticalSht is a sponsor of Shots Fired, as are so many other companies. Like Arrowhead Tactical is a sponsor, right? Arrowhead Tactical.
Badass concealed carry joggers.
Yep, the carrier joggers where you want to carry in comfort and style.
Perfect for the strip club.
Yep, and then you got Clip Draw for when you don't want to wear something cool like the carrier joggers, but you want to wear like silkies and still have a Glock 17 in your appendix.
Of course.
The Clip Draw is the way to go. Tons of other sponsors, but we're not doing a show about sponsors right now.
Nope. We're
actually doing a show called Good Cop, Bad Cop, right? When I was a cop, now I was a police officer. I was in law enforcement for 8 years. I worked in some of the most violent communities in North St. Louis County. I worked with the drug unit. I did lots of raids and lots of things. I worked with good cops and I worked with bad cops.
Quite a few from what it sounds like.
Yeah, we won't get into the bad cop stories about the guys I work with because they're still around and they will have me killed.
Yeah, but aren't they in jail?
No.
Oh.
No, not all of them.
Okay.
Not all of them. So, good cops and bad cops, that is basically what we're talking about today because there's been a lot of that in the media.
Yeah, we've actually been meaning to do this podcast for, about 2 weeks now, and just things keep coming up, we get busy, and then more and more shit keeps getting added to it.
Right. So the first part of this podcast is going to be about Breonna Taylor, the Breonna Taylor raid in Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeah.
Right? The raid that originally everybody was pissed off saying it was the wrong house, no-knock warrant, blah, blah, blah. And, now that it's been a week, maybe more, there's a lot more details about this. Still a complete goat fuck
still
of a
not
situation. Good. And you're going to be amazed at some of the shit we tell you. But then, before we could get to the podcast equipment and do the podcast about the Breonna Taylor no-knock raid in Louisville, Kentucky, Minneapolis PD decides to murder a black man on on the interwebs. Spend 7 minutes kneeling on a guy's neck for no fucking reason, and basically kill him right in front of witnesses when he obviously was not resisting at that time. So we're going to talk a lot about that and why and how Minneapolis is burning right now.
As we speak.
It's been burning. The riots started about 48 hours ago, and we've got a special treat when we get to that part of the show, because we actually have a former Ferguson police officer here to speak to us. Greg Kasem was the first K-9 officer on the scene when Mike Brown was down. And he's going to tell us his thoughts about what's going on in Minneapolis and how things have changed in America since Ferguson and what he's seen going on in Minneapolis. But anyway, let's get started talking about the Breonna Taylor thing. So, what is your understanding of what happened based on what you've learned through social media and through your own research?
So, like you said, initially there was a lot of uncertainties of it was the wrong house, it was the right house, but blah, blah, blah. A bunch of weird circumstances. A no-knock raid was done. The guy thought he was getting his house broken into. Engages the cops coming in. They were
plainclothes.
Yeah, plainclothes, civilian attire, no identification, no announcement, nothing, because a no-knock raid. He opens fire, and originally I didn't even think he hit anybody. And then they return fire, and I think at the time it sounded like the wife or girlfriend was in bed and she was struck and killed.
Yeah, that was the story. So let's just summarize the story that came out. The cops had the wrong house.
Yeah.
That the suspect they were looking for was already in jail.
Yeah.
That they no-knocked raid the wrong house. The homeowner shoots at them thinking they're breaking in because they're in plain clothes. They return fire, killing the girlfriend in bed. Sounds familiar, right? Doesn't that sound like the Duncan Lemp situation, which is still ongoing?
Yep.
We have an update on that, by the way. And then the story goes that in addition to killing her in bed, she was also a emergency room nurse fighting COVID-19 at the time. So that's a way to tug at those heartstrings. You know.
And then to top it off, he who what seemingly did what any gun-owning American would do, is charged with assault 1, I believe, and
attempted murder of a police officer. Yeah, attempted murder of a police officer because he did hit one of the cops.
Yeah,
and hit him in the femoral artery. So, fortunately, that officer was able to get to the hospital in time to stop the bleed, which must have been pretty fucking rapidly because a femoral strike is typically like a 4-minute countdown, right?
It's like a goddamn hose going off.
Yeah. So that's what came out initially.
Yeah.
Right? And since then, we've learned a lot about this event. The FBI is now involved. The Attorney General for the county has recused himself, and I believe the latest breaking news that you just told me about before we started the podcast is that the boyfriend, he has now been released.
Yeah, charges were dropped.
And charges were dropped. So Kenneth Walker, the boyfriend, who was originally charged with attempted murder of a law enforcement officer, he is now, according to my co-host here, I haven't seen that, so the charges have been dropped. So, are you sure about that?
It's what the headline said, and that was as of yesterday.
Okay. All right. So the other things that came out about this story that made it really interesting is that, yes, she was a nurse. She was the owner of the house. It was the correct house. The house was on the warrant, and a picture of the house and the porch was on the warrant. Her name was listed on the warrant. The guy that was the drug dealer in this situation was in custody because of a raid that had happened earlier. This house was on the warrant as a stash house for that particular drug dealer. So they were hitting multiple locations to clean up, this drug dealer's whatever. And so she was on the warrant as a stash house or somebody that was stashing his drugs for him. Her family claims that's complete bullshit. And when the cops the cops are saying that they knocked and announced. Witnesses are saying they absolutely did not.
It wouldn't be the first time.
So you've got, they no knock, they hit the door with the battering ram, they come in. Kenneth Walker, the boyfriend, not on the warrant, thinks that somebody's breaking in, fires shots, at least one, strikes one of the police officers in the leg, and then these guys return a barrage of 20 rounds, striking not their target, not the bad guy. He's not the bad guy, the homeowner.
Yeah.
Okay? Not striking the homeowner, but striking the girlfriend, Brianna, 8 times, 8 of 20, so about a 40% accuracy rate.
Higher than normal.
She was not in bed.
Yeah, initially that's the thoughts was she was still asleep, which doesn't sound right anyways, because at that point, if somebody's breaking down your door and shots are fired by your boyfriend in bed next to you, you're not going to still be asleep.
She was smoke checked in the hallway. Okay? According to forensic reports, bullet holes were not only in the hallway, there were bullet holes in the kitchen and bullet holes in the living room curtains and bullet holes throughout the apartment. So basically the cops, once shots were fired in their direction, they just sprayed and prayed. There was no aiming. There was no seeing your target and what's behind it, and because of that, they killed an innocent, unarmed woman. And, then they took Kenneth Walker into custody and charged him with attempted murder of a police officer. And how could they possibly do that in America when they are intruding in his home? He legally owned the firearms, and this is a stand your ground state, right?
Yeah.
So he was within his legal right in shooting at the threats that were coming into his home that had not announced themselves as law enforcement. And one of them gets hit, and now they want to charge him with, attempted murder. personally think it's bullshit, and I want to use my soapbox right here to try to begin a new initiative. I'm a nobody, but I don't believe, after seeing this and some other events like Duncan Lemp, I don't think no-knock warrants should be authorized in states where there is stand your ground or castle law doctrine.
I'll go one further. I don't think there should be any at all.
At all. Anywhere.
No.
Okay.
And
That's a bold move, Cotton.
It is, and I understand, well, it's dangerous. It is. You know that when you signed up.
You mean, wait, you mean I have to go into dangerous situations as a cop? I have to put my life in danger?
Yes.
I have to know how to use my firearm?
And
I have to be proficient with my firearm and know what I'm shooting at and what's behind it?
Correct.
And I'm not supposed to shoot good guys?
No, I know that's a lot to take in, but yes.
Huh.
And here's my reason behind that. I'm not even going to play the whole my military background thing on it or
Oh, no, I want you
anything.
to play the role because you made a good point the other day.
Well,
go ahead.
I'll get to that part.
All right.
But in this situation, what it comes down to is the basis of the job, the slogan that is for law enforcement, it's painted on the fucking cars to protect and serve.
Yeah, I always hated that part.
In my mind, that should be the number one priority. It is a civil servant position. That is a job. Now, granted, it is still a job. You're still there
My
for
taxes
a fucking
pay
paycheck.
your salary.
Not going to go full FUD here, but partial. But, I mean, when it comes down to it, yeah, it's a shitty situation. Nobody likes kicking in. Well, everybody likes and doesn't like kicking in a door. It fucking sucks. Your butthole puckers. You're like, well, I'm going to die. But at the same time, it's one of the biggest adrenaline rushes on the planet, and it's fun as fuck.
Yeah.
So you're just upping it for you a little bit.
Right.
But when it comes down to it, if your number one job is to protect your fellow Americans, to protect and serve, you can't do that if this is continually happening.
So a no-knock raid, so most raids, any raid I was always on, it was supposed to be, police department search warrant, crash.
Yeah.
Right? So it's knock, 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 police department search warrant, door comes off the hinges, and you're in the house.
Yeah.
Right? So it's really quick.
Yeah.
It's really quick. So there is a chance you're not going to hear that when you're dead asleep.
There is.
All you hear is a crash, right? You hear some, and then next thing you know. So the no-knock thing does not necessarily, it isn't that hard just to make an announcement to go in the house. Now, no-knock, police department search warrant. Door comes off the hinges, throw in the flashbang. Bad guys are probably not using flashbangs, right?
No, and here's my thing, too. Yes, you're not announcing yourself or announcing yourself, but in some situations, such as this could actually save lives, announcing your law enforcement, because a gun owner like yourself or me or anyone who works here has someone break into our house. If somebody kicks down the door and yells law enforcement search warrant, you're going, oh, okay, I'm just going to set this down. That could have gone really bad. Versus, oh, fuck. Do I get the STI? Do I get the agency? Do I get the SAL? Which one do I pick? Oh, God. Okay, I'll do both. And come out looking like a fucking scene out of fucking Scarface.
I promise you, if you raid my home, first things first, whether you knock or announce or not, I'm probably not going to hear it. Okay? Second thing, all three of my Great Danes are going to be going apeshit because you made a sound.
They're not little either.
My dogs are going to be going apeshit. I'm going to be coming through the house with weaponry, and I'm probably going to kill the first three guys in the door unless I really figure out rapidly that they are law enforcement and that they are there under illegal means. So I'm telling you right now, give me a phone call. I'll come out and you can put the handcuffs on me.
Yeah.
Right? Now, because I don't want to kill anybody.
No.
Right? I just want to.
No.
I want to sleep through the night. Right? I want to wake up and I want to. I want to.
It's what everybody wants to go home at the end of the day.
Right. No-knock warrants, though, the guys that these cops use to get these no-knock warrants is because it's a extreme threat raid, right? I'm probably not using the right buzzwords, but there's evidence to suggest. So, for example, I just said on a podcast that if the cops come in my house and I don't know they're cops, they're probably going to die. Okay?
you would be considered.
Now they could probably go get a no-knock raid on me because they want to have that extra couple seconds opportunity to try to get the jump on me.
Yeah.
So if the threat you're going in on is a high threat, heavily armed, has threatened law enforcement in the past, has made statements, whatever, that's usually when you get the no-knock warrant. But in this particular situation, Louisville, Kentucky, the no-knock warrant was issued on a stash house with a girlfriend who's a nurse, and she had no criminal history.
How do you know?
How do you get a no-knock on that?
How do you even know if they're aware that their house is a stash house? If I was a smart drug dealer, I wouldn't tell my stash house they're my stash house.
Is that why you come over every Wednesday night at 3 o'clock and you're only there for 15 minutes and you always say it's just to borrow something?
No.
Okay.
You haven't looked under the patio.
No.
Okay, yeah.
No.
There's a real big hornet's nest there. I've been trying to take care
Murder hornets
of
under my patio?
Yes. I've been trying to take care of that for you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Turns out murder hornets they immediately death upon taking some Bolivian marching powder.
So there is no reason, I've heard no justification as to why the judge, who's the ultimate at fault here, issued a no-knock warrant on this nurse's house because she might be a drug stash house. That's ridiculous in and of itself.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you right now, laws have changed in this country. When I was a cop in the early days, back in like 1995, you couldn't carry a gun. In most states, there was no such thing as CCW. All you guys out there that follow our page and you say, this has been our rights in 1776. Now it's like 2011, I think, is when like America finally started winning and getting our rights, our permissions.
Yeah.
To carry guns, to have guns in our home, to use guns in defense of ourselves, our families, and our property.
I'm gonna say the FUDs who've bitched the most about everything are the ones who bent over and took most of the stuff that didn't allow the assault weapons ban to take place, didn't allow CCW, allowed the Hughes Amendment. That's all the FUD's fault.
But the fact is, now you have many states that allow concealed carry. You have many states that recognize the Second Amendment as a constitutional right and don't require any further permitting.
Yeah.
You have many states that then combine those laws with stand your ground, basically mean, and castle doctrine.
Yeah.
Stand your ground basically means that if you are a threat and you are coming at me, that's key. I have no duty to retreat, and I can put you down, right? I could use lethal force if you're a threat and you're coming at me.
Yeah.
Okay? It doesn't matter where the fuck I am. Castle Doctrine says I can kill you on the front lawn if you're a threat and you're coming at me, even if you're not a threat. Even if you're just there to steal my shit.
Yeah.
Like if you're in my house, I got a pass, right? I'm gonna get a stateside kill.
Exactly.
Castle Doctrine says that, right there. Now, with that being said, again, just like we're hammering the cops here on training and procedure and knowing where your shots are going and knowing what you're shooting at, why you're shooting at them, and what's beyond them. This is all responsibilities of you, the gun owner, as well. Absolutely. You don't wake up because you hear a noise and just start spraying through your house either.
No.
And that might be what this dude did. But either way, he had the right to defend his castle from the invaders. And at this point, was these cops. So, that's, if there's a moral to this story, it should be that, in my opinion, no-knock raids should go away, especially in states. You're saying everywhere. I'm saying
everywhere.
At very least in states with castle law and stand your ground. But did you make the point a minute ago? Let's put this in perspective before we move on to the fun stuff. If you would have done this in Iraq, did we go through that? Did we? Let's do this.
So
now you're a Marine, and you're making entry on a mud hut.
Yeah.
And tell me what happens if this same thing happened to you.
Man, it really depends on what year I was there.
What the RMPs were.
Let's
say today.
I don't know. Now who knows what rules are going on. So 2006, when I was there the first time, shit was pretty loose. If I believe my exact words from my leadership and seniors were, if a dude looks sketch, smoke him. If he looks like he's thinking about being sketchy, smoke him. It was pretty fucking loose. Fast forward not that long later, 2007 to 2008. If a guy had a weapon, not a threat yet. If a guy is pointing a weapon at you, not a threat yet. You are not authorized to engage an individual until they are already engaging you. I hated that.
That's basically the cop law. That's what I grew up with in law enforcement. They had to shoot at you first.
If you hit someone innocent, there is such thing as collateral damage, yes, but you're gonna get at least, and situation dictates each one, but you are told from day one you're accountable for every fucking round you fire. Mm-hmm. Yes, shit does happen. There is situations where innocent people get killed, Battle of Fallujah, stuff like that, massive firefights. You stay back during that period, you're fucked anyways. But later on, if that could have been avoided, you're going to get fucking hammered for that. And then the next situation we're about to dive into here, I have more input comparing that is the whole reason I get heated off the bat. But we'll roll into that here in a second.
Yeah, we're not done with this story yet.
No.
We got a few more things to talk about.
Yeah.
So let's talk about other things that have come out, right?
Yes.
So the 3 officers that have all been put on administrative reassignment. Okay, so they haven't even been suspended. They're just doing desk duty or washing cars or whatever. That's Cosgrove, Hankison, Mattingly. Those are the 3.
Sounds like a law firm.
Cosgrove, Hankison, and Mattingly.
Yeah.
For when you no-knock the wrong house. Now, these are narcotics cops, which are typically pretty badass motherfuckers that get to bend the rules and do the dirt, right? That's the guys I roll with. And now Cosgrove had 10 letters of commendation. Hankison has 43 letters of commendation, and Mattingly has 18 letters of commendation. Now, that is from the police department's press release, right? That's a total of 50, 63, 71 letters of accommodation. So you get a letter of accommodation by saving babies, by, doing good jobs, making a difference, right? Fucking supervisors don't write attaboys for anything, right? You got to earn them.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of attaboys. However, if you flip the page over to the liberal media,
there's more.
Hankison was accused in 2018 of receiving oral sex in exchange for not arresting a woman. And in 2015, a woman claimed he attempted to have sex with her in exchange for not taking her to jail. Both incidents were deemed unfounded by Louisiana Metro Police Department. And neither mention of either of those incidents are in Hankison's personnel file. In 2008, Hankison and other officers were accused of dragging a teenager out of a car, beating him. Let's see, the investigation concluded that the teen was not assaulted and that injuries received by the victim were from the suspect's own actions attempting to flee from police. That was always my favorite part to put in the report.
I've heard that before.
This guy caused all his own injuries because he resisted.
Yes.
Right? Now, I'm not saying that you should resist, because when people resisted me, I beat the fuck out of them. Because we were taught, make sure they don't do it again.
Yeah.
Right? Let's see here. In 2009... the Professional Standards Unit revealed Hankison violated department policies in 2005 and 2009. In 2005, you're going to love this one. Okay? Listen up. Hankison, you remember all you guys that said they're good cops, bad cops, the good cops, these cops are going to take my guns. Well, no, they're not. There's good cops out there. They're not going to enforce unconstitutional laws.
The second they turn in their badge.
So Hankison, in 2005, was accused of improperly charging an individual with carrying a concealed weapon for having a shotgun in their trunk. In 2009, he failed to notify his supervisor about a third-degree assault and resisting arrest charge against an individual. so the appropriate photos could be taken. He also failed to call EMS one time when one of his suspects swallowed cocaine. He just hoped it would burst in the guy's stomach and he would die. He's got 43 letters of commendation, but he's got a whole lot of skeletons in the closet that have come out as well. Cosgrove was sued for using excessive force and making arrests without probable cause after he shot a man in December of 2006 at a Speedway gas station in Louisville. But the federal judge did side with him in that case, so it was a civil lawsuit. So Cosgrove's been involved in a shooting before. He had tried to pull the guy over on suspicion of drunk driving the week before. Yada, yada, yada. I guess he was accused of having a vendetta. The officer fired 11 shots at the car. 7 rounds hit the driver. And it was non-fatal injuries. This was when the car started to back away as Cosgrove approached the vehicle.
Okay, I'm not a lawyer or a cop here by any means, but I'm pretty sure last I checked, you don't engage vehicles for trying
when they try to back away.
Well, now, if it was coming at him or trying to run him over, a different story.
That's how you get that's the easiest way for a cop to get a stateside kill. If you're trying to stop a car and it's a pursuit, or they're trying to flee, armed suspects trying to flee, all you have to do is put yourself in front of the car, and if they put the car in gear, game on. Easily justifiable, and that might be what this is, but it says trying to back away. The guy driving the car was later found guilty of wanton endangerment, fleeing police and operating a vehicle without a license. He was placed on paid administrative leave, which is called vacation, and then reinstated in 2007. Let's see here. Lots of other stuff. Mattingly received a letter of reprimand for use of force in April 2017. That's not a big deal. And yeah, it doesn't look like he's got a lot of skeletons in his closet. Now, I can't find the article. One of our own fans on Tactical Sht's Instagram channel sent in a link to an article, and I read the article. I cannot remember which one of these 3 cops it was. I don't know if it was Cosgrove, Hankinson, or Mattingly. But one of those officers is allegedly accused of arresting, harassing, and allegedly accused of planting drugs on Kenneth Walker, the boyfriend, in 2 other incidents before this event. It is also alleged that one of these police officers who planted the drugs, and it turned out they weren't real drugs, by the way. They arrested Kenneth Walker. Remember how Kenneth Walker, the guy that shot, he's the boyfriend, right? They said he had no criminal history.
Yeah.
Well, he'd been arrested by one of these cops before for possession of cocaine, but they found out it wasn't cocaine. Okay? And it gets better. There's also an accusation that same cop that was accused of planting drugs on Kenneth Walker multiple times in the past also had a quote-unquote previous girlfriend in common with Kenneth Walker.
So the plot thickens a little.
I would say.
Just a bit?
Just a bit. If you know anything about that part of this story, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, let us know.
Make sure you tell us about that in the comments. So that's it. That's it. We're done with the Breonna Taylor story. I think we beat it to death. I'm an ex-cop. I am not a bootlicker. I support law enforcement. I support the good guys. There are bad guys in every single department. There are people that shouldn't wear a badge. Somehow they make it through the psych test. They are the guys that were picked on as a child, and they get that badge and they get that power, and they use it. They want that stateside kill. They want that adrenaline. You've also got the older, dirty cops that start figuring out how to make the money, and how to get away with things. Those guys, they're in every single department.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I'm putting myself at risk here, but fuck it. I don't care. I even had one who told me personally that his thing was when he showed up to work in the morning with his partner, they'd pop a bunch of Adderall and get all fucked up and hyped up and pumped and look for people to fuck up. His exact words. I'm not going to say who, I'm not saying where or anything like that. If he's listening, he'll know, and I'll probably get a message about this. But I don't give a fuck. It's time to stop being quiet, and if somebody's scumbag like that, call him out. And this isn't the first issue there's been with that either.
I literally worked with a cop that was dirty, like training day dirty. Like guilty of multiple homicides.
God damn.
And I was told to look the other way whenever he's doing anything or else I'll end up dead too.
Shit's fucked up.
So there is that in every department. But it's not all cops. There are lots of good cops. But here's the problem. When is a good cop a bad cop? By not talking shit on the bad cop. By not telling on the bad cop. By looking the other way. You know.
Immediately upon doing so.
Immediately upon doing so.
Immediately upon doing so.
So, anyway, let's talk about another good cop, right? I think we had a video here. It was ready to play at some point.
Well, let me do this.
Not it.
Wizardry.
It was this one here.
I've got to turn stuff off and switch
Oh yeah, you got to do things. Okay, so what was that guy's name? So a couple of weeks ago, what was his name?
Greg Anderson?
Greg Anderson or Graham Anderson?
Hold on, let's see.
Officer Anderson. We'll just call him Officer Anderson. So Officer Anderson was a police officer somewhere. I don't even know where. And that's irrelevant because he doesn't work there anymore.
Nope.
Because he got in his police car and he turned on his phone and did a car rant video.
Mm-hmm.
Let's play a little bit of it real quick.
You know, as a police officer, I'm compelled to make this video. I've been in law enforcement for 10 years, and I'm speaking to my peers, other fellow officers, people in any kind of law enforcement position. I've seen officers nationwide enforcing tyrannical orders against the people, and I'm hoping it's a minority of officers, but I'm not sure anymore.
Yeah, so that is an example of a good cop, one that wants to stand up against tyrannical orders, and a lot of these orders come down from the politicians.
Yeah.
Whether it be at the municipal level, it's the mayor, it's the alderman,
governor,
or the governor at the state level.
Especially right now.
They're pushing those orders, stay-at-home orders, close your business orders, all kinds of unconstitutional shit that I absolutely ignored.
Fuck yeah.
I absolutely ignored it.
No, from that,
because you're not going to tell me what to fucking do.
That was probably one of the happiest moments I've had here, is when all this happened and you said, hey, you know, you guys decide what you're willing to do, but we're not fucking closing. I like that shit.
Yeah.
That was solid shit.
And I love
the way it should be.
What our county did. Our county had big boy rules.
Yes. And that's how it fucking should have been.
Yeah, but the state, the state came in and tried to shut everything down, and we stuck to our guns.
Yep.
We had a team of lawyers and a bunch of money sitting there to fight it if they did come for us. They never did.
Nope.
But we were not going to close our doors. They were going to have to take us by force. And I wonder if that would have been a no-knock. I don't know.
Probably.
But anyway, so this Officer Anderson, right? He makes that video, and he gets tons of praise, and he makes cops all across the country look good to our fans that are disgruntled, to say the least, with law enforcement, that think law enforcement are going to come and take their guns, especially after seeing law enforcement enforce these unconstitutional orders, not laws, orders by the tyrannical governors and county executives.
There's a difference.
Okay, yeah, you don't have to enforce an order.
Even
you don't. An order is an order. It's not a fucking law. But anyway,
enforcement to the point of harassment in some situations.
Yeah, arrested motherfuckers for surfing on a beach where there's nobody's in the water, and
pulling up to church services and writing down license plates and citing everyone.
Pretty sure it's the First Amendment that allows me to go to church, and there's nothing you can do about that.
Nope.
Right? Fortunately, President Trump came out and made all churches essential services recently. I think it's way too fucking late. Should have been done immediately.
Yeah.
If Grandma and Grandpa want to go to church to pray to God and pray that they won't get COVID, that's their right. If Grandma and Grandpa's neighbor want to go sit next to them and breathe the same air to pray to their God, that's their right.
Yeah.
Right?
That's why we live here and not somewhere else.
So, anyway, this cop, Anderson, he makes that video, and what happened?
Fired.
He got fired immediately, like, fuck that, he's done, he gets fired, and the entire gun community starts reposting his video and his GoFundMe page.
Which last we checked was at just under $500,000.
$500,000 raised for Officer Anderson. Now, the government's going to take a good third of that. It's called capital gains. But so...
That's still, by my horrible math, not a bad chunk.
Yeah, he was probably making $80,000 a year if he's at a good department, you know, and so he just got 3 years salary with after taxes, net, you know, maybe $250,000, something like that.
Yeah,
because of the generosity of the fan base. So as soon as this podcast's over, I'm going to go outside and say something that'll get me fired, and we will have a GoFundMe set up. My wife, the HBIC, she wants to fire me right now. Trust me. Where are we at on time? We're at 37 minutes. We got a little bit of time, so
we got time.
We might as well. Okay, so we talked about Officer Anderson, right? Now let's talk about the elephant in the room.
Here we go.
So the elephant in the room is what's the guy's name? Come on, the guy that the Minneapolis Police murder whacked. George.
I'm going completely blank on last name right now.
George. So George gets murder whacked in the street, and of course, because everything is videoed today, there is a video that you can watch of poor George getting murder whacked. George Floyd.
Yes.
George Floyd. So George Floyd, and we don't
say Foreman. I knew that.
Yeah, we don't need to play that video because you've seen it.
Yeah.
You have to have seen it. And what it shows in the beginning is security footage of George being put in handcuffs and not resisting. All right. Then there's downtime between that camera and the next camera, which is a mobile phone camera, where he's already on the ground and he's been subdued in a way. But before we get to that, do you know why George was being arrested?
I do, in fact. From what I understand and everything I've read, it was an alleged, which I believe last I heard turned out to be false, bad check.
Correct. He was being placed in custody for allegedly writing a bad check, and guess what? It wasn't a bad check.
I'm sorry, correction. He looked like the individual writing bad
Oh, that's
checks.
even better.
That's what it was.
That's
I'm sorry.
even better.
His checks were fine, so it wasn't him. He looked like one.
So at some point, he may or may not had resisted, because it is weird that the security camera video doesn't show the resisting.
There is a new camera out. I can't find it.
But so he may or may not have resisted. I would assume he resisted in some way. But guess what? If you're trying to arrest me for a bad check and I didn't write a bad check, I'm going to resist. Just letting you know.
The newest video of him getting yanked out of the car is him being yanked out of the car and not getting a chance to resist.
Okay. And so they put him on the ground. There are 3 officers holding him down, and 1 or 2, I believe, other officers just standing around, kind of making sure the people that are surrounding the scene stay back.
It seemed like a somewhat busy area.
Yeah. And so the one officer, I don't even know his name at this point, but it's all over the media, puts his knee into George Floyd's neck and basically kneels on his neck, which last I checked is a way to kill people. I don't think they teach that in the police academy anywhere.
I'm aware of a submission move for putting a knee in in between their shoulder blades. However, I believe that's supposed to be done while you're trying to cuff someone or subdue them or apprehend them, not while they're already in fucking cuffs.
So they've got their knee on his neck, and it says police said in their statement that Floyd appeared to be suffering medical distress, so they called him an ambulance. Well, you're going to have medical distress if 2 guys are holding you down on your stomach and another guy's kneeling on your neck, and that guy weighs like, what, 220?
Yeah, 200, 220 is what they say.
So the kneeling on the neck goes on for 7 minutes.
The new time I heard today was 9.
Wow.
9 minutes total.
During this time, the man is repeatedly saying that he can't breathe, and his eyes are bugging out of his head. which is, last I checked, a symbol of asphyxia.
Yeah.
He goes limp.
And urinates himself.
Which means he died.
Yeah.
The media and the police department are saying that he died later at the hospital.
From complications.
I'm telling you right now, that's bullshit. I've seen people die, and he died right on the ground in the video. Sorry to tell you, you just saw a dead body. If you watch that video, you witnessed a murder. The guy died on the ground, and everything they did was against police proper standards. Once you get somebody in custody, what do you well, you're not an ex-cop, but you know this. You know, you roll them on their side because people can die if you leave them handcuffed face down. They can die of asphyxia just from that. The bigger the dude, the faster they die.
Anytime we detained anybody, we were to immediately, upon having them successfully restrained, set them up. We always put them on their knees.
Yep. And so even the witnesses, he can't breathe. And these guys do nothing. They did nothing.
No, one of the officers
They didn't do nothing.
The officer on his neck at one point when they were yelling at him because it was when he went limp and his eyes rolled back into his head, they became a little bit more aggressive with get off of him. He did pull out his pepper spray.
Oh, good.
Yes.
Oh, good. So, in my opinion, everybody's saying that this is like Ferguson. And we were at Ferguson. We were in Ferguson. Ferguson was part of us. The reason it's not like Ferguson
was justified.
Ferguson was justified, and even though some of you, especially our black friends, might disagree with that, right? It was arguably justified.
Yeah.
There was
the narrative that we were given to make it believe otherwise was very quickly deemed completely false and bullshit.
Correct. Now, there wasn't video of it.
No.
So that's number one.
No.
Number two, it seemed like a justifiable shoot. You've got a small white officer being attacked by a very large dude.
Well, I will say this. He is not a small officer. He's like 6'2", 6'3", I thought, and like 200 pounds. He's a pretty hefty guy himself. However, Mike Brown was significantly
Mike Brown dwarfed
bigger.
him still.
Significantly.
And Mike
was a big boy.
Reportedly going after his gun. And,
known to be a gangbanger in the area.
Yeah.
He wasn't just some unknown dude.
Fact is, you try to take my gun, you're going to get shot.
Absolutely.
Okay? Because that's my only option. If you get the gun, I'm going to get shot.
Yeah.
Right? That's how this works.
That's why you're going for the gun in the first place.
So the difference between this event and Ferguson is, had this podcast been around back then, and basically we had a similar type thing, but it was just Facebook Live, right?
Yeah.
You can watch my videos, in Ferguson. Just look them up. They're way down deep in our YouTube channel. We were absolutely 100% for the police, and we were defending them. We were taking them water at the firehouse. And we were catching a lot of hate for that, and we were getting death threats and arson threats, and our website was getting hacked.
Pictures of people standing in front of the shop.
Yeah,
it went on for
crazy.
months,
and it went on for years.
Oh yeah, actually.
This though is different because this is on video. There is absolutely no way in hell that anyone at the police department or the FOP can justify the action of the officer with his knee on the man's neck.
Anybody who tries to justify that is a fucking scumbag. You can't.
The fact that the Minneapolis Police Department, as of the recording of this podcast, has not arrested that cocksucker yet
is fucking disgusting.
Hey, by the way, guys, this is why your city's burning. All you had to do was arrest these 4 clowns, charge them, and release them on bond. The other 3 officers will probably get off with some sort of misdemeanor.
Slap on the wrist.
Because do I think they had malice? No. But the guy with his knee on the neck, he should get the fucking chair.
The dude had a fucking smirk on his face. And look at his body language in the video. He obviously was not struggling with the guy.
No.
He was comfortably almost, and I'm not trying to say this is what he was doing. It almost looked like he was doing it because the dude's neck was more comfortable than kneeling on the pavement.
Yeah.
It was honestly, I've seen some fucked up shit in my
To me,
life.
it was like, like a bear hunter shoots a bear and then takes a picture with it.
Yeah.
Or a fisherman's like, hey, look, I caught this big ass fish. That's kind of what this guy. He's like got his knee on this guy's neck, and he's puffing his chest out, just smiling, like, yeah, I killed me one.
I'm not gonna lie, I've seen some fucked up shit both on video and in person. I've seen body parts, decapitated people, fucking chunks of people, picked up chunks of people. I've seen bad shit. This is easily one of the top most disturbing things I've ever seen.
Definitely. And now, with that being said, do I think all the other police officers in the department should be hurt? No, because they're not the ones that did it. This guy should be charged. These people that are mad about it should be heard. But burning down buildings, throwing rocks at police.
It hurts your argument. I understand it. I will say I completely understand the rage.
Yeah, they're just using the George Soros playbook. All of the Ferguson protesters that we know have all jumped on buses and are headed to Minneapolis, which, by the way, only makes this worse because the ones from St. Louis know what they're doing.
Yeah, this isn't their first rodeo.
I listened to the police dispatch the other night when the riots started, and the first thing I heard was, all wounded officers, please report to the 3rd Precinct for medical transport. I thought, man, must be pretty bad if they're doing cattle calls for wounded officers.
Yeah.
Most of it was throwing rocks. There was some paintballs. There was a couple shootings because typically criminals take advantage of these melee situations to take out their competition. We saw that several times in Ferguson. We had shots fired in the crowd right in front of the police department that night when we were in the crowd.
Believe it or not, too, side note, I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's a very, very high population of Somalians in Minnesota.
Oh, yeah?
And it's notorious for a lot of issues. There's a lot of Somalian gangs.
Are they still called skinnies?
Probably.
Okay.
It's a lot of,
So
there's a lot of terrorist organizations in Somalia and running Somalia. A lot of that is transferred over here. So
are we going to see rooftop skinnies?
Very possibly.
Like rooftop Koreans?
Yeah.
So they burned down several buildings last night, right? So
bunch.
Minneapolis is burning. I think it's been spreading today into St. Paul.
Yeah, St. Paul's getting fucked up last I saw. Yeah. There's been a lot of stores looted, a couple places on fire. And why AutoZone? I don't understand. What did AutoZone do?
The news media is, they tried to ignore it at first.
It's still kind of crickets.
It is very much crickets compared to Ferguson. Ferguson was...
Every fucking news
channel. Every news channel was live 24/7 on the Ferguson fire line. And right now, Minneapolis is getting a byline to COVID-19. It's like, oh, no, don't do this right now. We need to control the public. And by controlling the public, we need to stoke fear. We don't need you to riot right now. Hold that. Wait. We're not ready for that.
Wrong timing.
Yeah. And so, it's just interesting to see how the media, they're so obvious with their agenda, man. Like I called it fucking Monday, Memorial Day. I'm sitting at a barbecue like every other American, and I'm sitting about 3 foot away from a buddy of mine because fuck your bullshit. And we're talking, and I said, watch tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, you're going to see headlines on the media that say, coronaviruses spike after Americans ignore social distancing over the holiday weekend. Sure enough, that's exactly what the fucking headline said. And isn't it a 14-day incubation period for this fucking bullshit?
Yeah, not 24. Yeah. Here's the funny thing. Guess what the headlines... This is worse than Ferguson right now, destruction-wise. Guess what the headline of the Post-Dispatch was this morning when I went to QT?
The St. Louis Post-Dispatch, the most liberal rag? Well, no, they're second to the RFT. But what was the headline?
Death toll for COVID reaches 100,000 or peaks 100,000.
Oh, yeah. You know what's even better than that? I was watching NBC News the morning after the riot started. This was yesterday morning. And I swear to God, this reporter, female chick, big news reporter, she says, we have to cut away from the ongoing COVID-19 coverage to talk about what's going on in Minneapolis. They spend 40 seconds on the Minneapolis and the riots, okay, and this story. And then she comes back and she says, and I quote, over 99,000 Americans have been killed by the coronavirus. I'm like, killed? The fuck? It's a flu.
Died.
You died. Nobody killed you. But the correlation they're trying to draw is they're saying that if you don't do the social distancing thing, if you don't wear a mask, then you're killing other Americans. And you're a murderer, and we're going to no-knock your fucking house.
Yeah. We're shut down your business.
Bring it.
Take away your toilet paper. And mind you, here's the other ridiculous thing that for any other officers who are still listening to us at this point.
Well, hopefully they are, because the good cops should still be listening because they would agree with us in every way.
Yeah.
Right? This is not a cop-bashing podcast. There is a lot of bad shit going on. We have gone, hold that thought, we have gone
I'm going to let you rant and go to the bathroom.
Okay, you go pee. We have gone from back in Ferguson, we talked about how is this different, right? When Ferguson happened, the entire nation, all of the gun community, all of the industry, everybody on the news, all of the regular everyday Americans, the middle class, they all became super supportive of law enforcement. Thin blue line was everywhere. Matter of fact, TacticalSht, who has a huge amount of law enforcement customers, we started selling thin blue line this, thin blue line that. We also sold a ton of body armor carriers, plate carrier, mag pouches. Every single cop you saw on the Ferguson fire line was outfitted by us. All right. Matter of fact, the Ferguson event is what got us to open our store in St. Louis. We owe a lot of our beginnings as a company to police officers and to our helping their cause. But since then, the liberals have done an amazing job of basically turning us, and when I say us, I mean Americans, against police. They've done so with their repeated attacks on the Second Amendment, their repeated attacks on the First Amendment, and now through this COVID-19 bullshit, it's bullshit. Through this bullshit, they're now using, the governors and the mayors are using law enforcement to enforce their orders, their tyrannical orders of staying at home and getting, a $500 fine in Osceola County if you got caught outside of your house. You fucking kidding me? That's where our Orlando store is.
Nick Kumwados, or I'm sorry if I fucked up your name. He said, fuck this. Enough is enough. Reopened his gym. Received constant harassment from a captain there to the point where the fucking chief showed up to his own house to apologize.
And guess what? The chief apologized to Nick, a former Marine Corps Raider and the founder of the Raider Project.
Yep.
The chief of police shows up to his house, makes an apology. Guess what? They fired him.
A temporary relief.
Yeah, they temporarily fired him and they put the harassing cop in charge. And they continued to harass Nick about opening his gym, pretty sure it's liberty and the pursuit of happiness.
Yeah.
Liberty and the pursuit of happiness. Well, guess what, motherfuckers? The pursuit of happiness means working for compensation so that I can pursue my happiness. And
gains the clock.
The fact that cops are allowing themselves to be used as pawns by these politicians. The politicians are being used by pawns by the super elite billionaires, the big pharma, the WHO. I could go on for fucking hours. We don't have that kind of time. But the point is, when Ferguson happened, the cops had the full support of the country. This is bad because the cops no longer have the full support of the country because of actions of bad cops. Not just this one event, but Duncan Lemp, Breonna Taylor, and a whole list of other
Freddie
things
Gray.
That have happened in the last several years. Your equity has eroded. If you're a cop and you're listening to this, it's more important than ever for you to seek good training, to watch your back, to roll with the good cops, avoid the bad cops like the plague, and weed the bad cops out of your fucking departments. Because if you don't, I'm afraid this country is going to weed them out for you.
No, absolutely, and it should. I hate to say it, and I'm not advocating any violence or anything.
Absolutely not.
But what it's coming down to is what you just said. If you guys don't unfuck yourselves and fix yourselves, people aren't going to stand for this any longer. And they're already showing that they're tired of it. And a lot of people have been on the fence over the past couple years, couple months, and the enforcement of bullshit, not laws like you said, but regulations passed. Orders have pushed people even farther, and incidences like this are enough to push a lot of people over the edge into, I backed you guys, now fuck that. And here I'm going to add my little nugget too of why this bothered me way more than I expected it to, is the fact that in Iraq, in a fucking war zone with known terrorists, people who are trying to kill me, trying to kill my boys, trying to hurt us, if I had done this to a fucking enemy prisoner of war, I would be looking at 25 to life in a fucking brig right now. And brig is not like jail. It's a lot fucking worse. It's brutal. It fucking sucks. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt I would be in there for war crimes if I had done something like that. I would be so fucked it's not even funny. In a heartbeat, they would have buried me and locked the key.
Can you imagine the butt sex in a Marine Corps brig?
All of it.
Oh my God.
All of it. But I mean, the fact that that's in a fucking war zone to an enemy prisoner of war, and this is done...
This is in America.
Yeah, this is done to an American citizen who wasn't even doing anything wrong in broad daylight, and that motherfucker's still walking around free is fucking disgusting. Fuck that dude.
Let's do a couple catch-ups. You know this story, the jogger? The Yager?
Oh, Yogging, yes.
The Yager that was murder-whacked by the ex-cop and his son.
Yeah.
They arrested the driver that did the video. He's now been charged with murder. So I guess he didn't roll like we had hoped he would. But so that's that. Wanted to give you an update too on Duncan Lemp. I received a phone call from someone who will remain anomalous. They are a good cop, and they had worked in that area with those SWAT teams in the past. And the information that they gave me was that the officer that fired through the window at Duncan was armed. He was standing with his back to the window and had his weapon at the ready, watching the closed bedroom door. And so Duncan, according to this anonymous person, was staged for engagement. He was staged for ambush. And that's when the officer outside took the shot. There was no discussion of why the girlfriend got hit or why there's no stories about her wound or her condition, blah, blah, blah. All he told me was that the guys that did that, the team, were some of the most squared away guys he'd ever worked with. And he just can't believe that, that it went down the way people are saying it went down. So, well, take that for what it's worth. It's still a super fishy story about, again, a kid with no criminal history. It's about an unconstitutional gun law. They're coming in his house. I'd jump up with my gun too, right? I'd jump up with my gun too. And my question to him,
especially right now,
my question to him was, what gave the SWAT guy the ability to shoot him in the fucking back through the window? Why not use your comms to say suspect armed, barricaded, suspects armed and barricaded in the bedroom? They could have smoked him out. They could have gassed him out.
A lot of
They could have pulled
options.
back. They could have abort. But instead, this guy just smoke checked him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whether or not they were all squared away, I don't agree with that decision. Yeah, he's getting ready to ambush your buddies, but your buddies have comms. Tell them not to go in.
Yeah, you're not a fucking Delta Force. You're not supposed to raid and go in and kill everybody in the house. Your job is to take the bad guy and take him to jail.
And so when we talk about these things, it's, again, not to bash cops. We love cops, or I do anyway. I love good cops, and I want to help them be better cops. And I'm not talking about ethically. I'm talking about tactically. Mm-hmm. Like, my job is to help them win in all situations. But the situation needs to be just
Yeah.
and constitutional. Door kicking, kill everybody fucking cop. I'm pretty sure there's
Join the French Foreign Legion.
there's French Foreign Legion. You can go down to Venezuela. Maybe
I heard Silvercore has some openings.
Silvercore has openings. Yeah. Listen next week when something else fucked up happens in the country. We have episode 44.